Welcome to the Pat White Show. Well, recently, the mayor of the city of Fort Wayne and a whole bunch of other dignitaries decided to hold an announcement. It was held at Fort Wayne International Airport, and the announcement was that Bombardier, Canadian manufacturer of aircraft that are used by, well, airlines like Delta and United, these are kind of regional airlines, what you're known as, and even international airlines. Bombardier of Canada is opening a maintenance facility in the city of Fort Wayne. Now you're going, okay, big deal. Well, actually, it is a pretty big deal because right now, Bombardier has maintenance facilities in Dallas, Tucson, Wichita, Kansas, and in Miami, Florida. But this will be the first one in the Midwest. And that could be very important for the city of Fort Wayne because with that, they're going to be working in a 65,000 square foot hangar. It's capable of holding 6 planes at any one time. And what they're going to be doing is all sort of maintenance. Things about maintenance, modifications, upgrades. This is where they take a plane and, well, they take off the instruments on the plane and put in all glass, give them the glass cockpit, which is everybody's flying nowadays. So all those things they're going to be doing for Bombardier. Keep in mind, Bombardier jets are everywhere. The chances are that you've probably flown on one of those. If you've been in one of the smaller ones that carry, 75, 80 passengers, somewhere in that range area. That's what Bombardier of Canada does. But this facility they're going to be opening up is like I said, 65,000 square feet. But they're going to be hiring 100 people. Now you're going, oh, great, get a job? Well, got to be qualified. Because if you're going to work on airplanes, you have to have a certificate, a license known as an A&P. Now, you're probably saying, okay, fine, I want to get a job, but where am I going to get an A&P license? Turns out, believe it or not, there is a place that you can get that certification, that training, right here in Fort Wayne. Yeah, I know you probably say, nah, it doesn't. Yes, it does. So over at Smith Field, it's a part of Ivy Tech. Now, a lot of you are going, what, Ivy Tech? That place? Yeah. Ivy Tech Community College offers you to get your certification as an A&P. That's an aircraft mechanic, if you will. And you can become certified by attending your classes over there at Smith Field and become certified. And then you could probably, or maybe, get yourself a job at the all-new Bombardier facility. They're going to be hiring people who know and understand aircraft. So if you're looking for a career, a long-term career, one that'll, you'll earn a whole lot of money. 2, you're going to have a life, basically life choice, but to get yourself a degree in a field. And the field is aeronautics and power plant, A&P. That's sort of like being an aircraft mechanic. That's what it is. You can get it at Ivy Tech. But Bombardier is coming to Fort Wayne, 2026, opening up a brand new maintenance facility, the first one in the Midwest, and it could get even bigger than what they're planning on doing right now. 65,000 square feet now. Who knows what it could get up to? But right now, this is going to be the only one in the northern tier of the United States and the only one in the Midwest. Fort Wayne is being honored by having Bombardier of Canada have a big maintenance facility right here on our tarmac at our field at Fort Wayne International. That, folks, is big stuff because you're going to see a lot more airplanes coming in because the maintenance facilities will be right here in the city of Fort Wayne. And that, folks, you cannot beat. If you're looking for a job, A&P, you can actually get your certification here in Fort Wayne. And want to thank the folks at Ivy Tech. Well, here we go, America. We're heading into our 3rd week of the government shutdown. And Senator Bernie Sanders just let the cat out of the bag by something he just said. And I'll paraphrase it for you. He said if the Republicans get their way, then healthcare system in the United States will be gone, devastated, taken out. Now, I had to say to yourself, what on earth is he talking about? Well, let's take you back a number of years to 2013. That was one of those government shutdowns you might remember that we had. Well, that shutdown back in those days had to do with the Obamacare legislation. Remember the Obamacare legislation? The Affordable Health Care Act, I think, as they called it. And remember, nobody knew what was in it. No one knew what was in it. And then you had Nancy Pelosi saying, well, we don't know what's in it. We're not going to learn what's in it until we pass it. Well, so then they passed it. Remember? The Obamacare legislation passed, which mandated by law every American to have health care. Remember, the government said you had to write down, put it in your tax return, who your health care provider was, what health care you had. And I remember my wife and I having said, okay, here's the company we use. Had to write out the form, put all the information to give to the government to show them that, well, we had health care. Because if we didn't, well, then we would be penalized. I don't know, maybe put you in jail. Who knows? I wasn't sure what the penalty was. But everybody had to get health care. So they said, well, people that don't have health care, you can get on these exchanges. Remember they had the website, the exchanges, you can get on, get your health care? Well, that was in 2013. So that was 17 years ago or 12 years ago? All right, say 12 years ago. Well, the Obama health care package that people got on, not everybody, because some other folks had regular health care. Like I didn't go on it because my wife and I have our own health care system. And many other people the same way. But millions of people had to sign up for Obamacare. Now, when they did, they got their premium notices. And so they said, well, what we're going to do, the government's going to subsidize families with a combined family income of $130,000 or less. So if you had two people working, they each made $65,000, there's $130,000 or less. The government would subsidize their health care. Okay, sounds fine. People that didn't have that much money help get the health care paid for. Right. Fine. Well, the trouble was the health insurance companies started taking a look at this and started putting prices on people's premiums. Those folks who didn't have the affordable health care, Obamacare, they saw their premiums starting to skyrocket and their deductibles went through the roof. Could you imagine having a health care policy that said, well, we don't start paying for anything until you've spent $10,000. That's right, $10,000 deductibles. And that's what happened to many people. And the rates were skyrocketing. So what did the Congress do? Well, the Democrats in Congress says, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to subsidize your health insurance. We're going to give you a tax credit. So for you folks under $130,000, you're already getting the tax credit. But you folks over $130,000 total income, whose premiums are going up through the roof, we're going to expand the subsidizing to people, say 5 times the $130,000. People up to earning $500,000 a year combined income. Well, those people in those brackets and the higher brackets were now suddenly getting the same tax credit that people under the $130,000 limit, which was originally proposed by Congress. Suddenly they expanded it so people making a whole lot more money, they were getting their subsidy also for theirs. Well, all that meant was a lot of money in the federal government, your and my taxpayer money. So if you had your own healthcare program, your taxes were going to support someone else's healthcare program. And all that money was being paid to the health insurance companies because they were raising the rates, saying, the government's subsidizing people, they're paying part of the deal, let's charge them even more, which they did. So now the Democrats a long time ago put a cap, a sunset, if you will, saying the subsidization of the insurance policies would end at the end of 2025. That was the plan back then. We're going to end the subsidies in 2025. 2025, the end is coming. And the Democrats realize the sunset's going to happen on the subsidies. And like Bernie Sanders said, the health insurance system could collapse because if the Republicans win, if this is what Bernie says, or they have to go back and open up government, then they can argue back and forth over the health care subsidies. Should it be renewed or should it be allowed to sunset, go away? Bernie says, well, the Republicans want it to go away. That means people's health care, they won't be getting subsidies. The health care system, people will collapse. They'll go back on the government and say, you made us do this because you forced us to do this. Well, he's right. If people find out how much it's going to cost them without any subsidies out of their pocket, they're going to say, wait a minute, we've been flim-flammed. So that's why government shut down, folks. That's what they want. That's the main thing they're talking about. Keep the subsidies because they're afraid that the public finds out just how much they're being flim-flammed and taken for. Those people that have this particular Obamacare, the whatever they happen to call it, the insurance program that they have. Well, those people don't make up all the America. That's only a relatively small part of Americans. But your tax dollars and my tax dollars are subsidizing those people that have the affordable health care program, which is anything but affordable. $10,000 deductibles for people with their health insurance now. That's what's happening. So now you understand what's going on. The reason they want the Republicans to cave in is to make sure those subsidies stay in place, or else their entire plan they came up with in 2013 is going to crumble. The healthcare, Obamacare law will be trashed, and we'll have to go back to figure out a better way to get healthcare, a way that actually works, because the Obama healthcare system is taking taxpayer dollars and paying it to the insurance companies. If you've got your own healthcare program, your tax dollars are paying for someone else's, just so you understand what's going on. And now, maybe you get what's going on and why the fight exists. And Bernie Sanders was right. If the Republicans win, the healthcare system, Obamacare, will be taken down in shambles. In the world of college sports, probably the biggest thing people talk about is rankings. What team is ranked the best? Which team is ranked the worst? Rankings is everything. And right now, here in the state of Indiana, rankings are a pretty big thing. For many, many years, ranking meant basketball. Whether it was Indiana University basketball or Purdue University basketball, that's what rankings were. That's what everybody talked about during the winter season, either Indiana or Purdue basketball, who was number one, who was number two, whatever. Well, for the longest time, that's what it was in Indiana, strictly basketball. But now something new has got to happen. And frankly, last year we had a little bit of it, and it was pretty tasty when you think about it. But this year, it became very, very big. And now, well, it's gotten really big, because here's what's happened. Last year, Indiana had a pretty good football team. They took 2 losses, one to Notre Dame and one to Ohio State. And both those teams fought out for the national championship, as you well know. Well, this year, Indiana said, we did okay last year. Let's see what we can do better this year. And this year, they're beating up everybody. But here's the big one. Everybody was waiting for it from the middle of the season. Indiana was taking on Oregon. Oregon at the time was the number 3 team in the United States, according to the Associated Press coaches poll. Number 3, I think Indiana at the time was number 7. And that was the big game of the week. Everybody was waiting for that game to occur to see what would happen. And the people who did the betting on it, figuring out who was going to win, who was going to lose, everybody was saying, well, Oregon's going to win because, well, Oregon hasn't lost to a Big Ten team into their house since 2004. Now, you think about that, that's like 21 years ago. Hadn't lost to a Big Ten team who came into their house. Last time it happened was 2004. Well, it turns out that 2025, Indiana University decided, Oregon, we're going to beat you. And they did. And, well, as a result, the Associated Press said, hey, Indiana Coaches Poll, you're number 3. Well, here's another poll that said, well, here's something a little bit different. This is the USA Today poll. And they are saying the number 1 team in the United States is now Indiana University. Now, you think about that. Indiana University, we're normal talking about, okay, basketball. That's pretty common. But football? Turns out the IU stadium is sold out for the rest of the 2025 year. Sold out at IU. The excitement at IU is incredible. And the all-new mascot, the Buffalo, or whatever they call him, new thing on the sidelines for Indiana. But Indiana is saying, hey, let's keep doing things. And they keep winning. Now, since the coach of Penn State was fired, everybody was saying, oh, we're going to lose the Indiana coach to Penn State. Well, it could have happened. Of course, there wasn't enough money you could buy off anybody if you want to. But apparently the Indiana coach has decided, I'm going to stay where I am for right now. I got a job to get done. Well, that's what's happening, folks. So now the AP says that Indiana is number 3, and the scoring poll from USA Today says Indiana is number 1. Regardless, they're a pretty good football team. And oh, by the way, remember I said Oregon, the last time a Big Ten team came into Oregon's house and beat them was in 2004. You know who that team was in 2004? Indiana University. Just saying. Well, if you've been following things that have been going on in various cities around the United States, one city that seems to pop up all the time, and has been for a number of years, is Portland, Oregon. That seems to be like the headquarters of Antifa in Portland, and it has been for, longer than I care to admit. Now, Portland, Oregon is a beautiful city unto itself. It's up there in the northwest portion of the United States, near the Pacific Ocean, except they got a couple little issues going on with Portland. One issue is, if you look at Portland, there's something off in the distance about 50 miles away, Mount Hood. Now, if you get up around 50, 60,000 feet and look a little farther up the coast, you're going to see a whole lot of, what looks like Mount Hoods. They're all volcanoes. That entire area is part of the volcano ring that heads up from the Oregon up to Washington. As a matter of fact, it's all part of the Pacific Ring. One of those volcanoes in there was Mount St. Helens, and you know what happened to that back in 1960 or 1980. But going back to Portland, what's going on? Well, apparently things are not working out too well in Portland, so the 1960s hippies that live in Portland have decided another way to protest having the ICE people there protecting the federal building. That's what they're doing, protecting the U.S. federal building. So what they do, they rode around on bicycles naked. I don't know about you, but somebody that old from the 1960s riding around on bicycles, it ain't a good look, folks. I mean, it really ain't a good look. I don't know if I would do something like that because, I could have been one of those people back in those days, but I wasn't. But I don't think that the idea of hippies riding around on bicycles naked is going to get a point across. You've seen it. Of course, they blur the stuff on TV because, if you saw it, you wouldn't want to see it. Trust me. But that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Portland. They're trying everything they can because nothing else is working. What they do is when they're done with their bike ride, they go back to their tents on the sidewalks of Portland where they live. That's how it is in Portland. But Portland's got a bigger issue they haven't thought much about. Or maybe they have, but they don't want to admit it. About 250 miles off to the west, out in the ocean, there's an axial seamount. What is that? That's a volcano underground that's getting ready to blow. They said it would probably erupt sometime maybe in 2024. It didn't. It's sitting there. It's bubbling. It's got a cauldron going, and everybody knows it's there. With all the problems going around the Pacific Rim, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, all the bad things that have been happening, Portland's got a big problem they just don't realize. If that axial seamount, that undersea volcano decides to let go, it'll make Mount St. Helens look like a cakewalk. That could create a tsunami of epic proportions. And even though Portland's a little bit inland, that water come rushing up that bay, could be very bad. So you get old hippies riding around on bicycles naked. You don't want to see that. And you've got Portland with a big old giant volcano off the shore, off to their west, and Mount Hood in the background. Any of those things could blow up at any time. And if they do, Portland, you may not be happy. And right now, the feds are in Portland to protect the federal buildings, as they are wont to do. And if you want to ride around naked on bicycles, that's your call. It just doesn't look pretty. Maybe back in the 60s it did, but that was, 50 years ago? Sorry, Mother Nature has taken its toll, and it's pretty evident seeing those people riding those bicycles. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you like grocery shopping with your wife? Let's be honest. You like strolling up and down the aisles looking for a can of peas? Or maybe the best price for frozen potatoes? Well, you do. You're different than me. I don't enjoy doing that. And it turns out that a grocery chain down in Florida by the name of Publix, major chain in Florida, I know because when I lived down there in Florida, that's where we shopped at the Publix. They're sort of like a Kroger or Meijer. Those kind of stores, they control the southern part of the southeastern part of the country, Publix. Well, in Wellington, Florida, at a Publix in Wellington, Florida, which is west of Palm Beach, they have something like no other grocery store has in the United States. A bar. You heard me right. They have a beer pub inside of the Publix supermarket. Now, it isn't just a beer pub. They've got all kinds of craft beers. They also have a burrito station, sort of like a Chipotle. You can make your own burritos. It doesn't cost you extra for the guac. They have a popcorn station. You can get all the popcorn you like caramel popcorn and dill pickle flavored, which I don't think I'd like, or even Oreo flavored popcorn. This one Publix in Wellington, Florida says, we want to make it enjoyable for a man to come to the grocery store and shop with his wife, because not only are you able to sit there and have a flight of your favorite beer, you can sit there on the big screen TVs they have and enjoy the ball games. That's right. It's like a complete bar inside of a restaurant or inside of a grocery store. Turns out the sales at the Publix have been, that particular Publix have been pretty astounding. And the men are accompanying their wives to shop. But here's the deal. Ladies, you're not left out. They've got a full coffee bar. You can get any exotic or different flavored coffee, mocha, macchiato, whatever it is you want. They have that also available. So a husband and wives can sit there and take it easy while they're grocery shopping. Oh, and here's the even better part. The carts at this Publix have cup holders in them. You can stroll the aisles while you're looking for your green beans and peas or whatever, and you can have your beer cup sitting in there while you're walking through the grocery store. Hallelujah. Oh, and if you want a pizza, you can be snacking on a pizza while you're looking at the pasta. Whatever it is you need, the Wellington Publix has it. Now, the management of Publix is saying, we're trying this out. We want to see if this is going to work out. Maybe if this works out, we could put this in other stores. Well, if they do, congratulations to them, but Publix is still down in the Southeast. I doubt if they're ever going to make the Midwest or any portion of this part of the country, but maybe, just maybe, some of the other grocery stores like the Meijer or the Kroger will see what's going on at this Publix store and say, if we open a certain part of our grocery store, we could get men to come in and go shopping with their wives. And if men are shopping, they may want to pick up some other stuff that Mrs. isn't going to be picking up. Guy's going to go, hey, man, that looks pretty good. We ought to try that. You never know with guys on what they want to buy. So now you know. Special store in Wellington, Florida, Publix store with a full bar where you can get beer, wine, mimosas, get a burrito, get popcorn. Hey, and you can stroll the aisles with your cart with cup holders. That's it, folks. Wellington, Florida. If you get down there, it's about 70 miles north of Miami. You might want to stop in and check it out for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, other grocery stores will say, that's a pretty cool idea. Let's see if we can try it in our market. And if you're looking for a market to try it, we got one right here, folks. Come on, folks. something to behold, having your own pub inside of the grocery store. Now, that, my friends, is shopping. If you're like most working people, you probably have not heard of a TV show called The View. Well, maybe you have, but you've never seen it. Well, folks who are retired or folks who don't have a job, either of those two groups can watch the show if they choose to. I happen to be one of those retired people, but I happen to know about the show, but I don't watch it. And one of the reasons I don't watch it is because I don't like their view, and it's named The View. Well, one of their hosts, a lady by the name of Alyssa Farah Griffin. Alyssa Farah Griffin used to be a Trump aide. And last Christmas time, she went on TV and said, you know what? If Donald Trump can manage to get the hostages from Hamas released, I will wear a MAGA hat on this show. Now, that's what she said, plain and front. I mean, the tapes are out there. You can see it. You can look it up for yourself if you choose to. All right, we all know what happened. Trump and other people, it wasn't just him, it was a whole bunch of other people, intervened and convinced Hamas that, hey, stop fighting, hand over the hostages who are still alive, and let's see if we can get the peace settled and rebuild your city, rebuild Gaza. If you haven't seen the pictures of Gaza, it looked like someone dropped a nuclear bomb on them. And frankly, Trump told the people from Hamas, you either settle, or I'm going to let the Israelis loose on you, and other people, we're going to turn you into dirt. Not that they're not dirt already, pretty close to it. Well, anyway, Hamas agreed. And as a result, they were releasing around 29, I believe, of the remaining living hostages. And Israel was releasing around 2,000 prisoners in their jails back to Gaza. But there's this Alyssa Griffin and the whole hat situation. So everybody was waiting on the day after the peace accord was announced. Sure, The View comes on TV on ABC like it normally does. And there she was sitting there, sitting pretty with no hat. And everybody started asking the question, wait a minute. You said specifically that if Trump got the hostages free and they are out, they're home, they're with their loved ones, you would wear a Trump hat. One of those red ones, Make America Great Again. She didn't do it. She said, well, you know, I'm happy. I'm glad he did it. They deserve credit. And that's all she would say. Now, here's what you have to understand. In today's world with the media and social media and videotape and everything else, madam, everything you say is recorded. And if you choose to say something, you better back it up or explain why you didn't. In this case, she did not say why she didn't. She just said, well, no, I appreciate what he did. Gee whiz, that's great. But I'm not going to wear a hat. Why? Because she's afraid of what the other women on, and I use the term women loosely, would do. These individuals who on this show. I have respect for women. I've been married to one for over 45 years. But class, well, that's a different example. And I'm not seeing it. Now, everyone is entitled to their personal opinion, and I have no problem with that. They can pontificate all they want. But if someone makes a promise and they tell America, sitting home, the millions or thousands of people who may watch that show, and she's going to do something, if something happens, if A happens, I'll do B. Well, A happens, but you didn't do B. And that, madam, makes you a hypocrite. I'm sorry. You can look at it any way you want, and you can feel any way you want, but she said what she would do. Now, if others do the same sort of thing, I don't care what party you're in, you make a promise, you say I'm going to do something, you better do it, or explain why you're not going to do it. That's the way out. You can always talk your way out of something if you're really good. In this case, she didn't talk her way out of anything. Well, there's a blockbuster video that just ended up on CNN. Actually, it was live on CNN, and a strategist, a Democratic strategist, her name is Liz Smith. She's a strategist for Pete Buttigieg, but she also went on CNN on a panel show on CNN that featured their token Republican. His name was Scott Jennings. And she admitted flat out that what has been done to Donald Trump over the years was a plan. It was a plan to get him out. And what she said was, and I'm going to quote her here. She said, "We resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy. We prosecuted him. We convicted him of 34 felony counts. And guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we could resist than we were now." And so Scott Jennings says to her, "Wait a minute. Are you admitting that the case against Trump in New York was organized Democrats Party resistance?" That's what he said to her. And she replied, and I'm quoting here, "It was a Democratic prosecutor. And at the time, I thought it was unwise. I just think it was boneheaded, moved by Alvin Bragg." Translation? They finally said the quiet part out loud. You know what this is saying? Everything they did was a plan to stop the guy, get him out. This is the resistance. And she admitted it. She's a strategist for the Democratic Party. She said, "We tried everything we could. We did everything we could to try to get him out of office." Yeah, okay, they may have done it in 2020 with sudden millions of votes, 81 million votes, and no one had ever gotten in history, and no one has ever since ever done that, mail-in ballots. She said, "We tried everything. The Democrats were doing it. It was a dumb idea. I didn't like it at the time. It was Alvin Bragg because we were trying to do everything we could." Now they're admitting it. Now you're understanding what was going on, how, well, they're saying, hey, we don't want somebody in office. We're going to destroy them. And now they're saying, how dare Trump go after these people? This is revenge politics. Why, you can't do that. You can't go after people. Wait a minute. Didn't they go after him? Wasn't this the entire thing? To convict him, to charge him with anything, to bring whatever charges you could against him, try to destroy his family, to raid his home in Mar-a-Lago with FBI agents after you notified CNN you were going to do it? All of these things are being done, and now the strategist for the Democratic Party says, yeah, it was a boneheaded move. We tried everything, didn't work. So what she's doing is admitting something. You can go watch it. It's on CNN. Matter of fact, you want to go see the replay of it, you can. You can probably find it on YouTube. I know you can find it on Rumble. Matter of fact, on Rumble, you can look at the heading, "Oops, Liberal Says the Quiet Part Out Loud." It's on Rumble. You can watch the video yourself. It's right there recorded. You can see exactly what she says in front of the entire panel. And Scott Jennings is looking there going, are you really saying this is what happened? She said, well, we tried. We did everything. It just didn't work. So now they're saying, how dare Donald Trump do this? He's revenge. And when we Democrats get back into power, we're going to do double revenge. So they're all swearing, gotcha. We're going to get you. You get us. We're going to get you. Where does this lead? Not a good place, America. It leads us down a very bad path. Because everybody's job when they get in there and say, we're going to seek revenge after people who went on revenge on us. Where did it start? Ask your question there. There's the biggest one. Where did this start? Who started the ball rolling? Who started the, we're going to take you out regardless of whatever it takes to do that? You have politicians saying, we're going to do that. Now you get the strategist for the party admitting it. That's what we got. So now the revenge mode is on. And now the Democrats are saying, you do it to us. When we get in charge, we're going to do it to you. Tit for tat. That's the game that's being played in America. And it's going to turn out very, very badly. Maybe for both sides. Because this is not the way a country runs. This is the way a country destroys itself. Well, I realize the WNBA season is over. There's a champion. I think it's Las Vegas. But something new has come out of the news that, well, frankly, was hidden from you and everybody else. You may not care about the WNBA, but apparently a network and a league was concerned about something. Let me tell you what happened. Well, as you know, the two teams that ended up in the WNBA Championship were Las Vegas and Phoenix. Their first game was played, and a news story came out that said they had 1.9 million people watching that game and a peak of 2.5 million. Well, that was the big story, and I saw that and I thought, man, really? They had 1.9 million? That's Caitlin Clark numbers to say the finals of the WNBA had 2 million people watching it. Well, there was no other stories following that. There was no social media, no tags, no nothing. I thought, well, that's really weird. Nothing else happened. Well, here's why. It has now been revealed that ABC and ESPN were so worried that, well, people wouldn't be watching the event, they fudged the numbers. Let me tell you how they fudged the numbers. Any place that had a TV on that may have had the WNBA game on, anybody who was around that TV, not necessarily watching the game, was just in the same room or in the same area where that TV was showing the game, they were counted. So let's say there's a bar out there with 27 TVs, and one of the TVs has got the WNBA on, but the rest have got NFL on or NCAA on. People are watching that, but nobody's watching the WNBA game, except maybe a couple people. The entire room of that so-called bar with all these people in it are all counted into the WNBA numbers. That's exactly what ESPN and the WNBA did, because ESPN is tied into the WNBA. They got contracts. They got advertisers who were advertising on the programs that they were broadcasting, and they had to show them we're getting the numbers. And here's what even more egregious. An airport. You know, they have TV screens up at the airport. They run networks. Well, if a TV screen had the WNBA or ABC showing, they counted everybody who walked by the screen as watching the show, watching the WNBA Championship. And then all those numbers they had, ABC refused to, and the rating companies refused to release the numbers. But eventually those numbers did come out. And now we find out the numbers were nowhere near what they were saying. And that's the reason there weren't any follow-up stories. There weren't any hashtags. There weren't anything proclaiming, oh, this is such a big number. So many people watched. The biggest number of people who are watching turns out to be for the Caitlin Clark and the Indianapolis Fever. They pulled in the big numbers. And remember, the Las Vegas Aces didn't even get to the NCAA championship. It took them 5 games and an overtime to beat the backup players for the Fever. Didn't even have their first team there. Everybody was backup and fill-in players, and they went to overtime. But that final series was not 1.9 million and 2.5 peak, far less than that. But the advertisers were conned, and now the advertisers are going, what? So the reputation of ESPN has been severely tarnished. And ABC, yeah, they're all together in this. But they lied to you. They lied to the public saying, this is how many people watch the women play basketball. No, it wasn't even close. Now, how is that going to affect things down the road? Nobody really knows. Are the advertisers going to say, hey, they're going to cave, or are they going to man the network to give them make goods? We didn't get what you said you were going to give us, so you have to give us more commercials to make up for the money we paid you. That's a possibility. That could very well happen. But right now, our sponsor is going to be leery to even get involved, to want to sponsor anything because they don't trust the numbers, because advertisers buy numbers. How many people are you going to deliver to me? If I'm going to pay X amount of dollars, I want to know how many people are going to be watching my commercials. Well, now we know ESPN and ABC flat out lied. And how they cooked the books to sell something they knew that didn't have much value to the American public, but they were going to sell it anyway because they had to make themselves look good. Shameful. That's the only thing I could say. But now you know. Now you understand the game, and the game is to make something look good that isn't, because they're looking for the almighty dollar and the big time image. They ended up getting neither.